Episode 99 of the PMP Exam Success Secrets with Scott podcast. All right, so today we're going to learn all about how to solve PMP questions without even reading them. Yes, it is potentially possible to do this. Not recommended, but it can happen. So let's get into this. All right, now before I tell you how to do this, it's going to really give you a good lens to operate with, and it's going to help you out a ton. I want to tell you a story, all right? Now, have you ever played poker? Have you ever been, 5-card stud or Texas Hold'em, whatever you want to play? Poker players are really good at not just understanding the cards, but understanding the situation, reading the environment, reading this, the other players and, the dynamics and how many chips they have and the others. And understanding that can help them react, in a positive way, in a profitable way. So the best players say you play the players, not play the cards, right? Now, how does that relate to this? A while ago, years and years ago, when I was playing cards, I read a story about this lady, this woman. She's Scandinavian, but she played an entire, she did this all the time. She played an entire PMP, or not an entire PMP game, an entire Texas Hold'em game with a little sticky over her cards. So her whole cards, the cards that were dealt out to her, she never saw them. And did she flare out and die, like get, cashed out and lose right off the bat? No, like she was talking about, she was doing extremely well in these tournaments, not seeing her whole cards, not seeing the cards that she gave them, right? She even won some big tournaments, and she never on online, she never saw her cards the whole time. So how is this possible? Like, why am I telling you this? This is weird, right? So when you think through and what they talk to her and ask her about is like, she was like, it's not just about my cards. It's about what cards they have, what cards the board or what cards that are out there that are communal for everybody, because that'll dictate how she operates and what she could represent that she has. And there are patterns that she, innately knew from playing cards thousands and hundreds of thousands and millions of hands or whatever it is, that she knew the way that people reacted, the speed at which they reacted, what they would do if they saw certain cards out there, what they would do if she acted a certain way. She obviously became and is a multimillionaire expert from doing this. So it's possible for the best players in the world not to even have the best cards in the world. It's not random chance. They just operate well because they know how to read situations. Cool. So when I say how to solve PMP questions without ever reading them or even reading them, I don't mean there's some cheat code or whatever out there. I mean that if, in order to answer questions, it's more about how we look at them and look at the questions and look at the answers, that we can see patterns and we can dictate what is best or most likely. Now, I lead, I don't know how many calls a week, 10 calls, coaching calls a week with 10 to 20 people in it, tons of them. We go through hard questions over and over and over. Doing that, I see how people approach questions. I see what matters in the questions. I see which questions are most likely right and all these different, which answers are most likely right. And what I've realized is that the way you look at a question, first of all, the way you approach a question, a lot of times dictates whether you get it right or wrong. And we talked about that in the last podcast. So you haven't listened to that one, listen to that. That tells you mistakes that you could be making right off the bat that'll throw you in the bad news zone and you'll miss it. But how to pick the answer that's most likely right. So if you look on the internet machine, the world is full of get down to 50-50 and make decisions, but they won't really ever talk to you about how you pick the right answer, right? I don't think people have really thought about this, and maybe they haven't realized it. Let's talk about how we do that, okay? So you're not going to have a perfect recall of everything on the exam. It's a new situation every time you walk into it, and you should be happy for that, okay? Because you don't want a memorization game. You want this thing to be hard, and you want to be able to think on your feet. That's the whole thing that we prepare you for. That's why we memorize nothing. Now, when you look at the answers, if you were just to look at them objectively and agnostically like I do, and I recommend you do this, just look at the flavor or the approach that each individual answer or response is offering, okay? Now, there are 3 different types of responses that I think are applicable and common and valuable. And those are the ones that are most likely the answers, okay? Now, the ones that aren't violate these rules. So back up into the question. Let's refresh. Questions are all situational, right? They all have a problem. They're going to paint a scenario and they're going to have a problem. And so you're asked to interpret the problem and state what you would do next. That's a majority of the question. What would you do next that's most proper in this situation? So there's different paths. You think about forks in the road. If there's a lot of different roads you can go off of problems in ways you can react, you can go ahead and just automatically, reflexively take action. That's one way you could do it. Or you could discipline somebody, right? Or you could avoid it. You could accept it. You could do all these things. It's kind of like how we deal with risks. That's one side. Or the most common side of what, the most common answers are these three flavors called chocolate, vanilla, and strawberry of PMP excellence, all right? So the first thing is, if the problem is really, really bad, if the question, if it frames out a scenario that is just real bad, in a sense, like the building is on fire, right? If there's a health emergency, if the government shut us down, if there's something really, really big that's a problem, that is not a react in a way. That is, let's be very disciplined and let's go to the sponsor. So that is prudent path number one, okay? It is we're going to go to the sponsor. That's an option. It's obviously probably not the primary option, but it is only usable when there's a real big problem. But it is a pathway that can be used commonly, okay? So that's like 3 to 5% of all questions maybe go that way. Now, the bigger path, these two paths that you've got to start looking for and trotting down, they feel something like this, okay? Problem in there's a situation there. What would you do next? We know the deal. The way we answer them is we go, let's pause, let's think, let's analyze, let's be judicious, let's negotiate, let's work through this, and let's be proactive in our actions. That's the kind of buzzword feelings that I want. That's the chocolate flavor or whatever. I think I might be on vanilla right now that I want you to see. So when we have a problem, I want you to say, which answer is asking me to stop, analyze, and then act in a disciplined way, most likely with change requests, okay? So you see those words of analyze, investigate, understand, negotiate. Those are the key words that's going to say that's a prudent way to go forward. So if you didn't have the actual question and you just had the answers and one was take action or discipline or something like that, you go, it just doesn't feel right. Okay? If the one that I just talked about was conduct detailed analysis, understand the root causes, provide change requests where needed, you'd be like, whoo, baby, that sounds pretty good. That sounds good. I don't know what the situation is. It's blanked out, but that feels good. All right? So there might be variants of that, but that is the main flavor of your PMP success. Okay? Analysis, outright being proactive, doing detailed investigation, understanding, negotiating. That's where we want to go. Now, the other flavor, the third leg, which is very, very common, is all around process. And what I mean process is keeping these documents updated, following the plans that we've established, and keeping everything right there along with a system for dealing with process or project problems. Because what, at the end of the day, PMI does not want us to do is to go off guns a-blazing left and right or putting in temporary solutions that don't solve the real problem long term. So when you see update the risk register, put it on the issue log, follow the change control process, check the plans to see what the next steps would be. Those are saying, don't go off in a wild direction that may solve the problem for one little second, but won't solve it for the rest of the life and the rest of the project. They're saying, be disciplined, go through the channels that you've established, follow a systematic way that we can change how the project's operating, keep everybody engaged and aligned and communicate so that we can move forward positively, that maybe this problem doesn't happen again. All right? So when I frame it like that, you say, yeah, of course. Those would be the roads that I'd want to go down. I want to go to the sponsor if it's real bad real quick, to align with them and make sure that we can make proper actions. I understand that it's got to be bad to get there. Cool. Number 2, what do we say? Investigate, analyze, negotiate, proactively work with people, those kind of things. That is our bread and butter. That's what we want to do. And the third is, if we didn't even know what the question was and the answer was, we want to go through and we want to understand what? We want to understand, have we updated the documents? Go back in, follow the plans, those type of things. Go through the process that we established in planning. That's where we're going to get more questions right. And when we have that on one hand, you go, I feel good about that. That's proactive. That's defendable. That is going to help us be better project managers and keep this project rolling on. Great. Now, on the opposite side of that, you have these junk food answers. Quick, little, give a little bit of benefit. Ooh, it feels good to discipline somebody. Ooh, it feels good to fire somebody. Ooh, it feels good to take action and supply this and do that. And that's what I would do in my projects. Precisely. It may feel good right now, but does it really solve the long-term problem? Probably not. Doesn't set a system up that'll help it through there. Doesn't engage the entire team instead of operating on an island. And when we get back to it, to the root, isn't that what PMI is trying to highlight for us? To say, we're building a team. We're leading an army. We're trying to do great things with a bunch of people, and we're trying to move everybody together. We don't do that by going half-cocked and taking these actions and just addressing these fires and firefighting. No. We're trying to understand the system, detailed analysis, understand how we can investigate what the real problem is, the root cause, how we can negotiate, how we can work together, do all those things. So when you put that lens, and then one of the things that, it helps us do is see quickly, that's a junk food answer, or that's a very wholesome answer. All right? So that's how we get down to those and make really prudent decisions on what the best one is. What is the proper process to follow? What is the most disciplined way to analyze and react and lead our team? That's how we get down to those detailed, ooh, that is it. That is the answer that I know is the most sound answer. Okay? So what can we do right now to get better? What you can do is play a game. Games are fun. You can cover up the question. Why not? If it's situational, if it's just a junk question that's based, it's not going to work, right? Because it's just going to be like plan, document, plan, whatever. You're going to be like, I have no context to make these decisions. If you get the situational questions and good ones, like the ones that we provide or the PMI free stuff or the one we do on the Wednesday calls with me all through the day and the Thursday calls and the Tuesday calls and the Friday calls with all the coaches, whatever, Mondays we have now, Saturdays, all those coaching calls, we go through hard questions, right? Those are situational. You can cover up the question, go to the answers and say, what's junk food and what's real? Okay? And if we can find out what the real wholesome answers are, then we can open up the door. We can look at the question and we could say, what do we think the answer is now? How do the context clues of the situation help relate back there? Because we got to choose C or D. Does it solve the problem stated above? And remember, systemic solves, not one-time simple junk food solves. So that's the lesson for today. I hope you liked it. That was kind of fun to think through how to solve questions without ever reading them, right? There's a way to do it. And look for the wholesome, not the junk food. You know the deal. All right? So this is episode 99, believe it or not. 99. I can't even make, how do you make 9? 99. It's been a fun year. We're going to do more next year, and we're not stopping now. So I want to tell you and tease you a little bit. We're going to do something big. 100 is a big deal. We've grown a lot on our staff and with me and how I teach and our engagement with you. And the PMP exam changes January 2nd. So we have a couple months. We're going to do something big. All right? And you're going to be involved. So I'm just going to leave it at that. We're going to do something big. We're going to help you guys get better, but we're going to have us lean together. You and me lean together because we're going to get a ton of people through the PMP. we're going to rain above targets on everybody else. We're already doing it. We're going to turn the rain knob not to 11. We're turning that thing to 12. All right. We're going to break some stuff in a good way. All right. So we got big plans. 100, 101, 102. I'm going to leak it out. Just be ready, because if you got a test, an exam in the next week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks, this is directly for you. All right. And if you haven't planned that out before, if you have a plan that's way out past that, this is what I need you to do. I need you to set better expectations. Pull that date up, because we can get there and we can help you do it. So what you want to do right now, if you haven't been in the accelerator, email me. That's the first thing. We'll get you in the accelerator. No obligation. We'll get going right there. All right. So that's the start, little tease of what we got. Big stuff coming, and the big stuff is really going to help people. We're going to paper the world. I want above target for you, all of you. Doesn't matter if you failed before. Doesn't matter if you haven't studied today. Doesn't matter if you're scared. We're all going to above target. Not for any selfish reason. The reason why is I know you got it inside you, and we're going to unlock it. So enough ranting. You know big things are coming. You can solve problems. Go use the little tricks and techniques that I talked about. Hit it hard. I'm pumped. It's Thursday. Tomorrow, we're going to release another 7-day accelerator interview. We're going to do another one on Saturday as well. We got them coming in. I got too many to release. So if you want to get in the accelerator, if you don't even know what the hell I'm talking about, and you were saying, I'd love to pass in 7 days. I'd love to be way better in 7 days or less. Email me, Scott@pmmasterprep.com. I'll talk to you soon. It's been fun. Adios.